Canadians united against Bombardier Cash. I'm Brian Lilly with the Rebel.media. Bombardier is a great Canadian company. They make great planes, amazing trains, but unfortunately this company is also an addict when it comes to government money, and they're in need of an intervention. I'm about to give it to them. We asked for your help in funding a poll to see how Canadians feel about the federal government giving this multinational global transportation giant based in Montreal $1 billion of your tax dollars. And the results aren't good for Bombardier and their panhandling. Now, this was a straight-up poll question. The question was not biased one way or the other. We conducted the survey of 1,511 Canadians using a national online panel between October 21st and 23rd, 2016. Margin of error, plus or minus 2.5 percentage points, 19 times out of 20. Now, overwhelmingly, Canadians coast to coast reject the idea of giving Bombardier more money. Before I give you the results, here is the exact question that we asked. Bombardier is an aerospace company based in Quebec. It has received direct funding from federal and provincial governments of $2.2 billion. The federal government may give them as much as another $1 billion. Which of the following statements is closest to your own point of view? You could choose. Bombardier should no longer receive corporate welfare from the federal government, or the federal government should continue to invest in Bombardier. And what's fascinating is that in every region of the country, a majority said, end the corporate welfare, even in Quebec. Among every demographic group, the majority said, end the corporate welfare. And when you see the numbers, you'll realize that this is the majority view in every political party that matters on the national stage. So where is support strongest? Where is it weakest? First off, let me tell you that nationally, 68% of Canadians say, end the corporate welfare. Now, that's not just Conservative or NDP voters at that point. That goes across the political spectrum. It obviously includes many Liberal supporters, though admittedly, we don't have the crosstabs to break that down by party in exact figures. But look at this. The Liberals swept Atlantic Canada, and regionally, Atlantic Canada is strongest in its opposition to giving more corporate welfare to Bombardier, with 79% saying no. That's followed by Saskatchewan and Manitoba, where 77% said no, and Alberta, where 76% said no. 71% in BC say no, 70% in Ontario, even 53% in Quebec, where Bombardier is headquartered, has much of its operations, and where it gets big bucks from the provincial government. Now, despite this, Justin Trudeau and his Liberals say they will give the money. Cabinet Minister Navdeep Bains now saying it's not a question of if Bombardier will get federal cash.
We've been very clear as a government that we're engaged with the company. We want to find a solution and really focus on growth going forward for the company. That is why we've said from day one it's not a matter of if, but how. We are going to proceed with this, and so this sector, of course, is very important to the Canadian economy, and we want to focus to bring those jobs back to Canada, and we want to focus on the long-term success of the company.
But on what basis do Trudeau and his ministers actually think they have a mandate for this? They didn't campaign on giving Bombardier your tax money, and every single region of the country rejects it. Every demographic group rejects it. It's interesting to see that men and women reject this idea equally. Young voters, middle-aged voters, seniors all reject it by strong majorities. By income and education levels, this is rejected. The only place it comes close is that Francophones only mildly reject corporate welfare for Bombardier. See, while 72% of English-speaking Canadians say no, just 51% of Francophones say no. Now, Bains will argue that this is about jobs, but bear with me for a moment while I explain why this is such a bad idea, why the economics don't work. Let's say that Bombardier took this money and just used it on salaries for workers. The average Canadian working full-time makes about $48,000 a year. If this money was to provide jobs for 5 years, that's 4,166 jobs for 5 years. But Bombardier won't be hiring more than 4,000 workers, and they pay more than average. We're told that these are really good paying jobs. So let's use this money to hire workers at $75,000 a year. Over 5 years, that money would pay for a little over 2,600 workers. Sadly, I don't think Bombardier would even hire that many people. And even if they did, is that the best use of tax dollars? Subsidizing high-paying jobs at a global transportation giant? We've already seen from their own financial filings that if Bombardier does get this money, they may pay it out in dividends. It's right there in black and white. We asked a straight up and down question, and I predicted before we even asked it that Canadians would reject this, and I was right. So I'm going to ask you again, if you haven't signed on our petition calling for the Trudeau Liberals to halt this transfer of your money to a private company, then please do so. If you have signed the petition, please post this story on Facebook or other social media so your fellow Canadians can know that they're in the majority. The petition is at stopbackingbombardier.ca. That's stopbackingbombardier.ca. Help us end this madness. Hope you like what you just saw. If you did, make sure you click here, subscribe to our YouTube channel, never miss a Rebel video again, or head on over to therebel.media, become a subscriber, a member, and access premium content that only members can access.